MeMonster.
Chapter 296. I took a deep breath, once. Then exhaled deeply, once again. Slowly, I savored the air filling my lungs. The air here was thick with the stench of blood, the acrid smell of burning, and a sharp, metallic odor all mixing together unpleasantly. Tawania's waiting room. This was where my second life began. I was thrown into this place without warning, forced to struggle for survival, to kill and crush others just to rise. And then, I opened my eyes. Not much had changed from before. The only difference was that the assassins from Nisled and Niflheim who had previously attacked me were no longer visible. I ran my fingers over the bifrost at my waist. Each time my heart beat, something hot spread through my body. This was the gift they had given me. An unprecedented power coursing through my veins, growing thicker and more potent. For now, I glanced to the side of my vision. Ding! Emergency suppression protocol has been activated in dimension 1035, Taiwania. Effect: continuous recovery in the waiting room, disabled. Effect: all heroes' stats minus 75%. Effect: status resistance minus 75%. Effect: mana reduced minus 75%. Effect: skill and engraving effects, durations, minus 50%. The debuffs imposed on heroes had intensified significantly. 3/4 of all stats were cut down, resistance to status effects and mana were reduced, and skills and engravings were weakened to an extreme degree. Emergency suppression protocol. I had heard about this from Azel. When an uncontrollable bug account appeared, Omega Zero, the highest authority, the company CEO, would issue this emergency martial law in the field. Effect: all NPCs affiliated with Mobius gain plus 200% to all stats. Effect: all NPCs affiliated with Mobius gain continuous recovery. Effect: all NPCs affiliated with Mobius gain frenzy. No wonder my body felt so heavy. It must have been under the influence of these curses. Even the best trained heroes couldn't display even 1/4 of their true strength under these restrictions. If that's the case... Clunk. I opened the door of the promotion center and stepped out. Near the fountain in the middle of the square, a heap of heroes, dressed in Niflheim gear, lay collapsed. Target acquired. Initiating suppression. A special forces squad from Mobius gathered near the fountain and began to move. Their number was 37. Mobius Inc. 37 level 99 Delta Rangers. I could tell at a glance. These weren't ordinary enemies. They were weapons trained solely for war. Their level of skill was worlds apart from the security guards I'd fought aboard the dimensional passenger ship. These were the true elites of Mobius. Their helmets, which completely covered their heads, were bulletproof, magic-resistant, and blade-resistant. Their state-of-the-art automatic rifles were designed with the latest technology. From their specialized combat suits to the efficiency of their movements, everything attested to rigorous training. They were terrifyingly well prepared. Crackle! The squad leader, muttering something into his communicator, stepped forward. Even his face was hidden by his helmet. A mechanical voice came out from within. Master Loki, surrender peacefully. This location is already under our control. Resistance will not guarantee your safety. Click. 37 gun barrels were aimed at me. Each barrel targeted a different angle or spot. No matter how I moved, they'd fire in that direction. They had already calculated the angles of evasion, a formation that demonstrated the level of their training, an excellent encirclement. So the waiting room has already fallen. I chuckled. No, that wasn't it. I could still sense the presences of enemies and heroes clashing upstairs. They must have used coordinate-specific teleportation to deploy this small squad here first. Emergency suppression protocol has been issued in this area. If you do not disarm peacefully, we will immediately open fire. And... That's my line, I muttered lazily. If you don't want to die, step aside. I've got places to be. Commence suppression of the target. The squad leader raised his hand. Tut-tut-tut-tut-tut-tut. Dozens of 5.556 millimeter bullets were fired simultaneously, traveling at a speed of 900 meters per second. The bullets seemed to have high-level curses inscribed on them. If they hit, they wouldn't just deal physical damage, but magical damage as well. A fusion of science and magic. Impressive. Whirr. The bullets spiraled violently as they surged toward me. Slowly, very slowly. In a world slowed down to 1,000th of its normal pace, I closed my eyes. Now I could feel the true power of the ancient species that once ruled and dominated an entire dimension. Rantia Niawar, the transcendent being known as the Red-Tail King. A saintist who had borrowed its power had once given me a headache. But the power that saintist wielded was nothing more than a speck of dust compared to the real thing. Eye of Destiny activated. I opened my eyes. In the distance, reflected in the metallic wall, my glowing red pupils shone ominously. Future sight. A multitude of red trajectories appeared before my eyes. They were the paths the bullets would take. Hit probability? 99.99%, is it? I lightly twisted my body. The frozen time began to move. 1 step to the side, 2 steps back, 3 steps to the side again, a slight leap forward. That was enough to make all 93 bullets pierce through empty air. There wasn't even a need to draw my sword. Twisting my body slightly, I advanced toward them. I slammed the chin of the soldier at the very front with the palm of my hand. Whack! The glass of his bulletproof helmet shattered, spraying bright red blood. Prepare for close combat. Crackle. The squad simultaneously drew their stun buttons. Electric currents of tens of thousands of volts coursed through their surface. Attack! I smirked. I could see it all. This wasn't the result of combat training or experience. I simply saw it. Where they'd attack, how they'd move, when they'd swing their arms. It was all clear to me. Whack! Thwack! Crack! Every time I swung my arm, a member of the Special Forces turned into a bloody mess and went flying. Their ultra-durable combat suits and advanced helmets with magical reinforcements were utterly useless. Request reinforcements! The water in the fountain turned crimson. Even with a 75% stat reduction, that's nothing. Doesn't even make a dent. Crack! I drove my fist into the bulletproof glass of a helmet. The face of the Special Forces member under it was crushed, and he collapsed with a thud. Spread out! Surround him and open fire! It seemed they were changing tactics. The squad scattered, each taking a different direction while reloading their rifles. Whoom! Just then, in the corner of the square, space distorted and a dimensional gate began to form. It seems reinforcements were about to arrive.
I lightly stepped forward, flying to the spot, and casually stuck my finger into the dimensional gate. The gate, which was about to stabilize, dissipated. What? What the? How? Boom! I stomped my foot heavily.
Unknown error. Unknown error. Unknown error. Unknown error.
The stat reduction of -75% applied to Hero Han 7-star has been lifted. The status resistance reduction of -75% applied to Hero Han 7-star has been lifted. The mana reduction of -75% applied to Hero Han 7-star has been lifted. The effects applied to Hero Han 7-star are being removed.
I stretched out my right hand. A soldier, trembling as he attempted to reload his rifle, was suddenly pulled toward my palm. Ugh. Look into my eyes. I pushed my face close to his, locking my glowing right eye onto his visor. Absolute future overwrite. This was the second power of the Red-Tail King. Crackle! From my right eye, crimson lightning erupted. You're going to kill all your comrades, and then you'll die. The man's entire body began to shudder uncontrollably. Moments later, as if possessed, the soldier staggered upright. And then, tat, 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 tat. He began firing his rifle indiscriminately at his comrades. One after another, the elite soldiers of the special forces dropped like flies, riddled with bullets. 10 seconds later, the man, having executed every last of his teammates, placed the rifle's muzzle under his own chin. Bang! The blood pooling from the corpses formed a deep crimson puddle beneath my feet. I took a small breath and snapped my fingers. Whoa! The corpses shuddered briefly, then began emitting a white, radiant light. The light particles, like threads, slowly streamed toward me, flowing into my body. This is the true power of an ancient being. I had only utilized a fraction of one of the four beings' powers. It was almost laughable. This was a cheat on an unimaginable level. With this kind of power, those so-called gods, they possessed these terrifying powers, yet they chose to sit idly by. All they ever did was pose grandly while exploiting the inhabitants of their worlds. What happened in Taunea was likely just a small part of it. Those gods toyed with and mocked the fates of heroes for their amusement. Even now, with destruction looming right before them, they had no intention of dirtying their hands. 32 in total. That was the number of divine beings within Mobius, extracted from the memories of Rantia and Schuttenberg. Each one held a high executive possession within the company, with Tell, the CEO, at the pinnacle. Not a single one of them is worth keeping alive. I smirked. If anything, it was a relief there were so many of them. If there were only a handful, the process of killing them wouldn't be as satisfying. Ooh. Another dimensional gate began forming. It seemed they were trying to send in reinforcements again. Haven't they learned their lesson yet? Closing the dimensional gates earlier had been an act of my courtesy on my part. I had thought it better to give them time to clean up the mess in the waiting room. But if they were going to keep pushing like this, I'd have to adjust my plans. Isel. Whoosh! With a faint shimmer of stardust, a tiny fairy appeared. Isel looked at me with a fearful expression. Are you really Loki? Why? You're terrifying. Isel squeezed her eyes shut tightly. Her small body trembled violently. This interference is terrifying. Is it? Well, I had devoured 4 divine beings and thousands of heroes at once. But this was just the beginning. 32 pieces of trash remained. If I devoured them all, I'd finally be in a position to face that arrogant little deity. Don't be scared. My subordinate shouldn't be shaking like this. I smirked and placed my hand on Isel's head. Pat, pat. I gently stroked her head, and her trembling gradually subsided. Are you really Loki? Something happened in there. It's a long story to explain now. Isel looked at me silently, her gaze filled with unease. And there's something I need to tell you. Isel's eyes widened slightly, her attention fixed on me. From now on, I'm going to destroy Mobius Corp. I'm heading to Server 1. I'm going to kill them all. The executives, the CEO, every single piece of trash that stands in my way. It doesn't matter where they run. I'll hunt them down to the ends of hell. Isel hesitated before speaking. Make your choice, Isel. Will you stay by my side, or will you return to the company? Isel stared at me with trembling eyes. She was nothing more than a low-ranking administrator within Mobius. I could easily ignore her. Even if she chose to leave, there was nothing she could do that I couldn't accomplish myself now. Still, the truth was, I owed her a lot. Loki. What? If I stay with you, will I become something real? Something real, huh? I suppose that was an understandable desire. Right now she was just one of the countless fairies scattered across the millions of waiting rooms. There were countless replacements for her. Over 1 billion, identical in both appearance and name. But even so, of course. I smiled as I replied. Okay. Iselle wiped her tears from her eyes and perched herself on my shoulder. She had made her decision. She would stand against her creators. I'd have to think of a new name for her. But once I finished cleaning this mess, pieces of trash were scattered everywhere. It was time to start cleaning. Chapter 297. The hounds of Mobius swarmed both inside and outside the waiting room, launching an all-out assault on Taunia. A handful of elite agents had infiltrated the waiting room itself, committing acts of terror and massacre, while outside, a cutting-edge fleet encircled the building, serving as the main force in the siege. Until now, Mobius's main force had only been spoken of in rumors. Never had anyone actually witnessed them in action. Their troops possessed overwhelming strength, both in quality and quantity, far surpassing any ranker by a wide margin. Even a top 100 ranker wouldn't last an hour against them. The most troublesome thing is the suppression protocol being enforced across the entire field. If this wasn't dealt with, the casualties among the other heroes would be catastrophic. Iselle, I have a favor to ask. Say the word. As I spun the hilt once, red lightning began to crackle and dance along the blade. Gather all the heroes in the waiting room at the lodging quarters. Plant this dagger at the entrance and hold out until I return. This dagger? It'll block their underhanded tricks. This dagger nullified interference in the area where it was planted, disabling the suppression protocol. I blinked twice with my right eye. My vision wavered briefly before expanding, displaying a full map of the waiting room. There they are. In the corner of the training room on the 4th floor, several moving dots caught my eye. Jenna, Velkist, Wirung, and Kishasha. The core of Taunia's main force. They'd gathered there, holding their ground. Iselle, the first party members are in the 4th floor training room. Lead them to hold the line. 4th floor training room. Got it. Iselle carefully took the dagger. And you, Loki, I'll take care of what's happening outside. I reviewed the map one more time. Neither Cirrus nor the invading commander, Caracal, were visible. It seemed their battle had moved outside. The Mobius and Niflheimer fleets must have been clashing fiercely in that area. How long will it take? Not long. Okay. Iselle flitted off toward the stairs, her movements quick and nimble. Once I confirmed she had completely disappeared, I turned my attention to the dimensional gate spinning before me. As I inserted my index finger, the scenery beyond the gate painted itself vividly in my mind. As expected, outside the waiting room, the Mobius fleet's airship, likely the origin of the Special Forces deployment. Attention all units, advance! Smack! I struck a man attempting to step through the gate squarely with my fust. His head shattered instantly, and the Special Forces soldier collapsed in a heap. I kicked his lifeless body aside and leapt through the dimensional gate. The passage opened up to reveal the vast command center of the fleet. Control panels were scattered throughout, and on the giant screen at the front of the command center, the current battle situation was displayed in meticulous detail. And there they were. Mobius, Inc. 237 Level 99 Delta Rangers. A swarm of Special Forces soldiers surrounded me just outside the dimensional gate. Their helmets were made of opaque material, designed to protect them from falling prey to my Mystic Eye techniques. Quite the welcome, I smirked.
Tang! White dragon's blood. A pale mist spread out from beneath my feet. The command center froze, its scene coming to a halt. It was as if time itself had stopped. Swish! In the slowed world, I drew Bifrost. Tempest. Whoosh! A storm surged from the blade. This was the signature technique of the #1 ranked hero, El Cid. This inscription, a tool built specifically for large-scale mass murder. I swung the sword. Boom! Dozens of soldiers were reduced to pulp and slammed into the walls. Their bodies were compressed as if crushed by a giant press. This is the power of the Wave King. I could manipulate the flow of time freely. The enemy's time crawled to a halt, while my own flowed effortlessly fast. I strolled leisurely through a hailstorm of bullets, cutting down enemies as I went. Whack! Clusters of soldiers scattered like toys. By the time I'd finished, the command center, once neatly organized, was drenched in blood. Monster! The soldier who had turned to flee lost his head to my blade. I grabbed the headless man and swung him in a wide arc, using his corpse as a shield against the rain of bullets. The body was soon riddled with holes. Don't panic! Hold formation and wait for reinforcements! Pop! A light flick of my finger made the squad leader's head explode. Ah! How are we supposed to fight someone like that? Run! Run! So they do have emotions. I'd thought they were nothing more than soulless killing machines, but I suppose this makes things simpler. Ha! I swung my left hand to the side. The open exit of the command center slammed shut and locked tight. The soldiers who had been attempting to flee in groups were suddenly trapped. One of the briefing reports said, "A level 99 6-star hero?" I kicked the chest of the muttering soldier. He flew dozens of meters before his limbs were torn apart. This is so easy, it's almost boring. I flicked the blood off my sword. The command center was now a battlefield painted red with only one survivor among the 237 Special Forces members. Don't come any closer! Monster! The last remaining soldier sat trembling in tears and snot, trying to crawl away. I grabbed him by the hair and lifted him. Ah! I have a question. Monster, please, spare me! Some elites they are. I stared directly into his eyes, absorbing all the information he held into my mind. There. I confirmed the location of Caracal. I snapped his neck and stood up. Simultaneously, the data from his body separated and was absorbed into mine. Not bad. It wasn't entirely devoid of nourishment. If I consumed all the enemies here, I'd have a proper feast. I turned my gaze to the glass window at the front of the command center. Through the blood-streaked glass, I could see the Mobius and Niflheimer fleets exchanging fire in the skies beyond the field. Explosions and falling airships glittered like stars under the crimson-lit sky. Crash! I broke through the glass and leapt outside. Flipping my body mid-air, I landed on the deck of the airship. The battle outside came into sharper focus. Gah-ha-ha-ha! Is that all you've got, Cirrus? Disappointing, truly disappointing. Boom, boom. Turning to my left, I saw two figures colliding atop the deck of a Niflheimer airship. One wore a black uniform surrounded by a crimson blaze, and the other, Mobius Inc., Caracal Titan, level 999. His level had nearly doubled since I last saw him.
Caracal darted between the decks like a bolt of lightning, firing a rifle and swinging a massive axe. Each step and swing of his weapon left deep craters and damage in the airship's alloy deck. Cirrus skillfully dodged his attacks with minimal movements, inflicting wounds all over Caracal. Yet,
I am invincible. This is the power of the blessing bestowed upon me. No one can harm me. Don't you understand that? Ceres's flame, which should have nullified regeneration, couldn't leave a single burn. That body, it had been engraved with something far beyond ordinary. SS rank, at least? Ridiculous. Likely a cheat-level power ordinary heroes would never have. No doubt. If we're going to bring him down, it'll have to be me. You insects can struggle all you like, but you will never defeat me. Obey quietly and become food for my axe. Caracal slammed his enormous axe into the deck. Crack! At that moment, the massive airship, stretching over 100 meters, shook violently, splitting apart along its center. With a single swing, Caracal had cleaved the colossal airship in two. I will resurrect endlessly, and I will grow endlessly stronger. You cannot defeat me. I am invincible. Invincible. ... His grotesque body started bulging, black, tumor-like masses swelling and then subsiding all over his frame. It seemed his body was collapsing under the strain of the overwhelming power coursing through him. The higher-ups have promised, when this battle is over, I will ascend to become one of Mobius's executives, ruling over every dimension. I grinned. You wish. That's never going to happen. By the time this battle is over, there's a 100% chance he'll fall apart completely. That is, assuming he manages to survive this fight at all. I slammed my foot down. Boom! A powerful gust of wind erupted beneath me, propelling my body forward in an instant. As I closed the distance, Caracal's bald, grinning face grew larger in my vision. What the... Hello. Bam! I grabbed his face and slammed it into the steel deck with all my might. Crash, 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 crash! The ground beneath us shattered as I smashed his head into the deck 5 times in rapid succession. Crack! The steel surface gave way, crumbling into pieces. Master, how are you... Ceres's expression was filled with shock. Talk later. You didn't leave? You broke our agreement. I don't remember ever making that kind of promise with you. I kicked Caracal's body, sending him flying across the deck. He crashed into an airship, which exploded on impact. Master! Ceres bit her lip, visibly shaken. Her usual calm demeanor was nowhere to be found. Quite a refreshing sight, actually. We've risked our lives for your sake. I never asked you to. Are you saying you won't return to Earth? I'll do whatever I want. Ceres pressed her fingers against her temples, looking utterly exasperated. This is just completely absurd. So, are you going to keep nagging? From within the flaming wreckage of the airship, Caracal's silhouette emerged. You bastard! Caracal smashed a small airship in a single strike and landed atop the falling debris. I see. I had only intended to half-kill him, but normal attacks don't seem to work at all. His body was healing rapidly, the gaping wounds closing almost instantly. Ha 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 ha! So it's you! You're the vessel the higher-up spoke of. Perfect, perfect, you've come right to me. Caracal let out a loud, booming laugh, his eyes glinting ominously. Let me show you my true power, the power to shatter the universe and even slay the gods themselves, the power of absolute dominance. Mobius Inc., Protector of Order. Caracal Titan. Level 1347.
Level 1347. I'd never seen a number before. Saris turned to look at me. Master, what is that power you're wielding? Her gaze narrowed, her tone low and cautious. Explaining would take too long. Right now, though, there's no time for that. Understood. I pointed Bifrost at Caracal. That bastard is mine. You can't harm him. I know. That's exactly why I'll take care of him. Saris let out a deep sigh. Then, gripping her blade, she swung it down in a long arc. When this battle is over, I'll have many questions for you. Her entire body ignited with flames. But for now, I'll agree. There's a bigger problem in front of us. If it's too much for you, step back. I can handle him on my own. That's something we'll have to see for ourselves. Whoosh! Her blade burned a brilliant red. Saris spun her blazing sword in a smooth motion, taking her place beside me.
Chapter 298. Ha 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 ha! So two little bugs have joined forces. It's useless. I, who have received his power, shall never be defeated by anyone. Boom! Caracal swung his axe down once more. The already shattered remains of the airship split apart completely, scattering in all directions. Level 1347. Just looking at his stat values alone, he was hundreds of times stronger than a max level 6-star hero. On top of that, he was under the effects of the field buff, making his total stats practically incalculable. Well, even so. Clank. Saris, this time I'll handle him alone. Your flames won't work on that thing, so stay back. You mean you can handle him, Master? You'll see soon enough. Saris's gaze darkened. I gave her a small smile, then kicked off from the airship's deck and shot forward. Time acceleration. I let my body synchronize with its unique flow, propelling myself toward Caracal. My target? His heart. Vroom! The blade, imbued with the power of the storm, roared violently. My plan was to detonate him from within in a single blow. When he recreates the universe... Man, you sure love the sound of your own voice. In a fraction of a second, I closed the 100-meter gap and sent a powerful kick to his head. Crock! I could feel his fractured skull reverberate through my shin. I followed up with a rapid series of attacks, an elbow to the philtrum, a fist to the throat, then a strike to the collarbone. Then I grabbed him by the throat. Why do you talk so damn much? Ha ha ha! Clang! My blade was caught in his grip. Caracal was clutching it tightly, even as blood and bone fragments scattered from his fingers. His wrist was being shredded, yet it regenerated instantly. The wounds all over his body healed in less than a second. I am invincible. Boom! I quickly retreated. A storm-like shockwave followed as his axe cleaved through the space where I had just been. There was no particular technique or finesse to his swing, just sheer, overwhelming strength. You little insect. Caracal raised his rifle he was holding in his left hand and aimed it at me. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta! A barrage of ultra-fast bullets rained down. I slid across the tilted deck, dodging the trajectories one by one. So, he really did load himself up with everything he could get. His level and stats had surpassed the limit. He had near infinite regeneration. Even his equipment was unique grade or higher. In terms of raw numbers, he far outclassed El Cid. Is it my turn now? Whoosh! The moment I blinked, his face was already right in front of me. I twisted my body on instinct. The axe grazed my leather armor. Without pause, he began a relentless assault, swinging his weapon in a storm of attacks from all directions. Loki, I thought you were all talk, but is this really all you've got? I'm disappointed. I don't understand why he holds such affection for a worthless worm like you. Boom, boom, boom! The steel deck beneath me crumbled under the sheer force of his attacks, reduced to rubble. But I'll give you this, you're slippery as hell. Crunch! I leaped back,
landing on the ship's railing. Ha ha ha! He followed like a bolt of lightning, his axe swinging once more. I was controlling time, yet his speed was as if he were teleporting. He must have been blessed with a high-tier engraving. Is this still not enough? Black dragon's blood. Boom! Caracal closed the distance in an instant. I'll tear you apart right now. He swung his axe. I caught his wrist. Ha ha ha! You fool! You think you can fight me, someone with infinite power? I'll fold your body into pieces! Caracal smirked in triumph and moved his arm. And then... Crunch! His right arm bent the wrong way. The axe, suddenly without a wielder, spun upward into the air. I tossed Bifrost over the railing, now bare-handed. Let's test something. Let's see if you really can't die. I grabbed his throat with one hand and lifted him up. He flailed, struggling to break free, but my grip didn't budge. You damn... Crash. I slammed him into the deck. His head drilled through several meters of reinforced steel, embedding itself deep inside the ship. This won't be... enough? Oh yeah? Boom, boom, boom! I continued, dragging him downward through every level of the ship, from the top deck to the lowest floor, through the metal hull, through the core structure, straight down. Not yet. I still held his throat. I kicked off the air, propelling us forward. He thrashed, but he was still unable to escape. Thud. The edge of the field, the boundary where the system separated dimensions, a transparent wall in simple terms. I stood against its side, feet firmly planted. You bastard! I slammed his head into the wall. Boom! A massive shock wave rippled outward. The entire transparent wall trembled. This thing doesn't break, huh? Second impact. His neck bent in an unnatural angle. Still, he didn't die. Third impact. The airships behind us wavered from the aftershock. Fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. At the rate of 17 times per second, I drove his body into the wall. The field boundary had the property of never breaking, making it a perfect tool for this. Special powers? None. This was just pure brute force oscillation. You think this will what? At the 184th impact, his entire body started trembling. Stop! Can't hear you. Stop! Stop it! No. Wham! 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 At the same time as I slammed him into the wall, I pounded his face with my other fist. His nose broke. His philtrum shattered. His upper and lower teeth crocked apart. His skin was torn open, revealing the raw bone underneath. At the 548th impact, I finally let go of his collar. Caracal's half-destroyed body slid down the wall. Bifrost. I snapped my fingers. Thud. Bifrost came flying from somewhere, stabbing into his heart. He convulsed, pinned against the wall. Then I twirled my index finger. Rrrr. The blade vibrated violently. White dragon's blood effect. Vibration collapse. A crimson-black lightning bolt erupted from the sword. The incompatible forces of black dragon's blood and white dragon's blood fused together. I clenched my fist. Crunch! Caracal's body exploded into fragments. Finished. At that moment, ding! The 135th Dimension's Taunya's enforced suppression stance has been lifted. A welcome message appeared. As expected, the debuff had been linked to Caracal as its host. See? I told you it wasn't necessary. Ceres closed her eyes tightly. I let out a quiet chuckle and glanced around at the sky stretching endlessly above us. With Caracal dead, the tide of battle had flipped in an instant. Everywhere I looked, Mobius's airships were bursting into flames. Mostathea! Mostathea! Flash! A flicker of stardust appeared beside me. Iselle flew toward me, her face flushed with excitement. When I used the dagger you gave me, the curse on the waiting room completely disappeared. So what's the situation?
We've turned the tide. We've taken out most of them. Also, there was some support from Niflheimer. Isel's expression stiffened when she spotted Saris. She looks mad. Don't worry about it. More importantly, I have another favor to ask. This one might be a bit tricky. Sure, what is it? I leaned in and whispered the details into her ear. Can you handle it? For something like that, I can just use the supercomputer in my room. And with that dagger, I should be able to crack even classified data. I'm counting on you. Got it. Be right back. With a pop, Isel vanished. See, Saris? Now, shing. I glanced to the side. The blade of Leviathan was pressed against my neck. Didn't expect this reaction. Master, what did you sacrifice for that power? She bit her lip hard. I let out a short laugh. I have no idea what you're talking about. You absorbed the transcendent beings of Townia, didn't you? So she figured it out. She must have analyzed the data while investigating Townia's waiting room. Honestly, it wasn't surprising. That's not an unnecessary concern. I won't break like the other 7 stars did. Perhaps your body won't break, Master, but... Enough with the lectures. I've already made my decision. No matter what you say, I won't change my mind. I pushed Leviathan's blade aside. Sarah staggered slightly as she was forced back. Tell the others too. I'm heading to Server 1. I narrowed my eyes. Beyond the sky, I could see them. Dozens of gazes fixed upon me. A normal hero wouldn't even be able to sense their presence, but I could see them clearly. They're watching me. Even at an unfathomable distance, just as they were watching me, I was watching them. You can hear me, can't you? I murmured softly. My quiet voice would surely echo through their round table discussions. Wait for me. I'll be there soon. I narrowed my gaze further. The wide battlefield in my vision shrank away. Now, my eyes reflected only the scene within this field. The message had been delivered. Master. What? Will you give us a little time? Time. We'll finish up this battle soon and come find you with the rest of the party. Wouldn't it be better to talk then? It won't change anything. You're so stubborn. I didn't say anything. Saris turned her head away abruptly. I let out a small chuckle. Do what you want. Then we'll see you soon. Whoosh! Saris vanished in an instant. She's not lashing out. Her reaction was calmer than I expected. I thought she might start swinging her sword without warning. But instead, what did you lose? That was what she asked me. According to the prince, I was an infinite chalice created by a series of coincidences, a vessel that could store any amount of data without limit. Unlike El Cid and the other 7 stars, I was fundamentally different. Even if I absorbed all the gods of Mobius, even if I devoured tens of thousands of fragments, I would never collapse. It's enough. I can kill anyone. One day, even that eyeball bastard. However, every time I use this power, my humanity. Boom, boom, boom. In amidst the explosions and falling wreckage of airships, I recalled the past. The Fire Mage. Before she died, she called me an idiot. Her corpse had been swallowed by the depths of the ocean. I could still remember that moment vividly, but I don't remember her. Her name, her face. I had forgotten them. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. I had been prepared for this from the start. Life is about choices and focus. If you choose one thing, you have to abandon another. There's no such thing as a solution that satisfies every condition. Just like how I gave up a stable job to focus on this game. This was just another similar choice. I just need to remember one thing. Go forward. Become a single piercing blade that cuts through this insane world. If this is the price to break it all, then I would gladly pay it. With a smile. Chapter 299. On the deserted Mobius warship, I sat on the railing beside the deck, sipping water. The large-scale battle against Mobius was reaching its final stages. With Caracal's death, the suppression order had been lifted, and the chain of command had collapsed. The fact that the restrictions on Party 1 had been removed, allowing them to rampage freely, was also a key factor. It'd be nice if it ended here. I tossed the empty canteen over the railing. The large-scale battle against Mobius was reaching its final stages. With Caracal's death, the suppression order had been lifted, and the chain of command had collapsed. The fact that the restrictions on Party 1 had been removed, allowing them to rampage freely, was also a key factor. If we don't finish this quickly, they'll keep coming. This was a war between powers that ruled entire dimensions and the universe itself. There was bound to be a disparity in endurance. Even if Niflheimer managed to fend off the attack this time, it would eventually fall. Boom! Cuckoo-coon! A massive Mobius airship crashed nearby, engulfed in flames. Beyond the issue of Mobius itself, it was uncertain how much longer Server 1's main computer would hold out. Even now, the unleashed fragments could be running rampant across the universe. The key to victory is speed. With Tel's younger brother, Ikar, currently sealing the fragments, and Mobius's defense systems not yet fully operational, this was the best timing for an attack. But first, I had to clean up. Smiling faintly, I flicked my cloak. A golden circle formed in the air, revealing the interior of the waiting room. The waiting area of Taunia was in complete ruin. The training grounds, workshops, lodgings, and all kinds of resting facilities. Most of the basic infrastructure had been utterly destroyed. The gathering and crafting classes who lacked combat capabilities had been massacred. If anything had been here, they might have at least issued an evacuation order, but their account had already been suspended. The bodies scattered across the plaza had likely died without even understanding what was happening. What should we do with the corpses? There's no way to handle them properly. Gather them and burn them. Understood! Heroes in Niflheimer uniforms were working to clear the site. Ugh, cough. Ugh. A young boy collapsed onto the ground, vomiting. Understandable, considering the corpses here were mangled beyond recognition. Glancing at him briefly, I climbed the stairs. I passed by the Niflheimer and Taunia heroes, who were eyeing me warily, heading to the highest floor of the waiting area. There. You're here, Oppa? Jenna stood up from the wreckage of a collapsed mansion. Her leather armor was stained with blood and dust. I figured you'd come if I waited here. Injuries? I'm fine. They did have some strange weapons, but thanks to training with Velopa, I managed. Jenna dusted off her pants and walked toward me. Though fatigue was evident on her face, she had no visible injuries. But Oppa, I heard something strange from the Niflheimer mage. The mage? Yurnet? I think she introduced herself as that. She explained everything. Where you came from, who you really are, what townie it is, what the fragments are. She was really smart. She said, "We're doomed, that we have no choice but to be destroyed." So she finally told them. At this point, after clearing the 90th floor, that information was bound to come out sooner or later. Then we? Doomed, you say. But what we saw on the 90th floor was... What makes you think that? She said everything we've done was meaningless, that it was all for nothing, that the best thing I could do for you was to send you back where you came from. Meaningless? It all had meaning. At the very least, we're still alive, aren't we? Jenna remained silent, staring at me intently. She always made that face when she was deep in thought. After pursing her lips, she spoke. You're still planning to fight, aren't you? Sharp as ever. Well, I never thought I could fool her anyway. Take me with you. Aren't you going home? There's nowhere to go back to. You're still too weak. You wouldn't even be a match for them. I might not be a match, but I could at least be a finger's worth of help. If we're going to die anyway, we might as well try. Who knows? Maybe a miracle will happen. Maybe my hidden super potential will awaken and pow, 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 defeat the enemies. Thud. I caught Jenna as she collapsed and gently laid her on the ground. By pressing her pressure points, she would sleep like a corpse for at least a day.
You're going to resent you for this, senpai? You think I care? I smirked as I turned my head. Velkist was emerging from behind a building. You've changed, senpai. I can tell by a glance. Jenna was right, but it was my super potential that has awakened. You guys don't stand a chance against me. No matter the outcome, senpai, you are heading for hell. I don't quite get what you mean. How many years will it take? I narrowed my eyes. Velkis leaned against the wall, looking at me indifferently. How many years? And do you think that end is something humans can comprehend? For humans, time like that is indistinguishable from eternity. But I suppose, no matter what I say, I can't change your mind. Velkis let out a deep sigh before speaking again. If you have any last requests, say them now. When you begin the fight, Townia will be restored. When that happens, help Priya. Once I finish clearing out Mobius and entered the boundary, I'll be able to restore Townia. You're still connected to Asinus. You should have enough power. Until I return, you're the submaster of Townia. Take care of everyone here in my place. You're really going alone? Unless you want to come with me. Would you fight an eternal battle against infinite enemies for my sake alone? Explain everything to Jenna. I'm off. I turned away. There were still many heroes I hadn't seen yet. Kashasha, the future leader of the Beastmen, Coyoteo, who was likely busy repairing the airship, and Weiryoung, who had protected the waiting room with Townia's defensive forces. But I'd have to postpone my goodbyes. There was no need to take the lower levels. I could open a dimensional gate whenever I wanted. I stepped on the path leading out of the garden. Oh, one last thing. What is it? I will definitely return. No response came. Smiling, I stepped forward. Turning left, I passed through a series of corridors and arrived at a secluded warehouse on the highest floor. Open! With a swing of Bifrost's scabbard, a dimensional gate appeared, connecting to the outside of the tower. Loki! Pop! With a burst of stardust, Isel appeared.
A thick stack of documents was tucked into her waist. The investigation you requested is complete. You work fast. I like it. I took the documents from Isel. The request I had given her was simple. Estimate the expected number of fragments and calculate how long it would take to eliminate them. Since most of the necessary data had already been entered, the analysis didn't take long. Let's see. I flipped through the pages, and then my hand stopped on the last page. 2,700,000 years. 2,700,000 years. By the way, what exactly is this number for? There's no context, just a figure. It's nothing, just a joke. I tossed the documents into the air. Black flames erupted, consuming the entire stack. First, I need to head to Server 1. There were still 32 board members left at headquarters. Absorbing all of their data was the first step. Gripping the scabbard tightly, I stepped into the dimensional gate. Dimension 1035. Townia. Outside the tower, the wreckage of airships floated through the sky, scattered across the field. I reached out with my will and pulled in a small airship that appeared to be relatively intact. Clang. I landed on the deck. As I infused it with my influence, the damaged components repaired themselves and the fuel tanks began to refill. Set coordinates. I already knew where the entrance to Server 1 was. Vroom! Flames burst from the rear of the airship as its engine roared to life. Gulp. If you're scared, you can back out. No, I'm going. Isel shook her head furiously and climbed onto my shoulder. Boom. I lightly kicked the deck, and the airship began to move. Accelerate. Vroom. The airship picked up speed, gliding smoothly through the clouds. Now that I thought about it, I hadn't named the airship. No need to think too hard about it. The name came to me in an instant. I Need Thing. I wonder what the master is doing now. They might have deleted this wretched game already, fed up with it. Or maybe they were desperately going back and forth with customer service, trying to recover their account. Either way, just one more time. I need you to help me. Vroom. The airship shot forward towards the edge of the field. Master. I glanced to the side. A vision appeared alongside an urgent voice. It was Yurnet. Stop immediately. Surus. If you've decided to fight, you don't have to return to Earth. But not like this. Don't leave us behind. I flicked my right index finger. Yurnet's vision dissolved into mist and faded away. Boom! From behind, I saw Surus leaping between airships, racing towards me at full speed. Her speed was comparable to that of a fighter jet. She already noticed. I pushed the airship's acceleration to its limit. The ship, infused with my power, shot forward at a steep velocity. Loki, I don't really know the situation, but wouldn't it be better to talk things out? I have nothing to say. All they did was bark at orders the moment they saw me, telling me to go back to Earth, to hand over the Book of Reversal. So arrogant and demanding. Not that they were entirely useless. Without them, I would have had to take a much longer route. Or worse, I might have been used and discarded by Tel without realizing it. It's exhausting. I was sick of their sentimental nonsense. I already knew what Surus would say and how she would act. She had always been self-righteous. Back when I was the master, she constantly interfered with everything I did. If she hadn't been born a natural 4-star, I would have scrapped her long ago. Surus mouthed something, but she was shouting something, but we were too far apart for me to hear her. Not that I cared to listen. Shing. I drew Bifrost. A masterpiece forged together with Yurnet. Its durability was near infinite, and it had countless abilities that had proven useful for my missions. Loki, I don't really know the situation, but wouldn't it be better to talk things out? I have nothing to say. All they did was bark at orders the moment they saw me, telling me to go back to Earth to hand over the Book of Reversal. So arrogant and demanding. Not that they were entirely useless. Without them, I would have had to take a much longer route. Or worse, I might have been used and discarded by Tel without realizing it. It's exhausting. I was sick of their sentimental nonsense. I already knew what Surus would say and how she would act. She had always been self-righteous. Back when I was the master, she constantly interfered with everything I did. If she hadn't been born a natural 4-star, I would have scrapped her long ago. Surus shouted something, but we were far away from each other, so I couldn't hear what she was saying. Shing. I drew Bifrost. A masterpiece forged together with Yurnet. Its durability was near infinite, and it had countless abilities that had proven useful for my missions. Loki, we're going too fast. We'll crash into the wall. The wall! We will be... A golden glow enveloped the airship. Instead of shattering upon impact, the ship smoothly phased through the barrier. Huh? Izel blinked in confusion. I grinned and stomped my foot. The airship, which had been soaring forward, came to an abrupt halt. Boom! A loud crash followed as Surus slammed into the invisible boundary. She was immediately repelled, but she drew Levitane without hesitation and began slashing at the wall. Surus's fire was almost invincible, but even it couldn't break the system's fundamental rules. Her fire did nothing but flicker uselessly against the barrier. Surus. She was shouting something desperately, but I couldn't hear her. 2,700,000 years. Converted into days, that was 985,500,000 hours. Too many hours to even count. I flicked Bifrost into the air. The dark blade, wrapped in blue energy, hovered in place. Heaven and Earth seal. A secret technique from the blue-winged king Schutenberg. This sealing technique could even lock an entire time-space zone. It wouldn't last forever, but it would buy me enough time. Boom! Bifrost flew towards the barrier and embedded itself. Blue flames spread from the blade, engulfing the entire field. I unbuckled the scabbard from my belt and tossed it off the deck. I wouldn't be needing that sword anymore. Surus. With this, my debt is repaid. Dimensional leap. Blinding light filled my vision.
Chapter 300. Boom! A bolt of lightning tore through the scattering dark clouds above. The massive lightning bolt, spanning several kilometers, grazed the side of the Antang, the airship we were riding. Dimension 1013. Valtrak. We had long since left Taunia behind. After making several dimensional jumps, Izel and I were now passing through an unnamed dimension. Perhaps it had been abandoned, as there was no sign of the waiting room's iconic tower. Out in the open, storms raged with wind speeds of several hundred meters per second, accompanied by relentless lightning. If we hadn't deployed a barrier over the entire airship, we would have been swept away and crashed in an instant. Rumble. Amid the gray clouds, pale lightning flashed down into the darkness. "Feels like watching a movie," I murmured. If there were ever a perfect 3D movie, would it feel like this? Outside, storms capable of shredding human flesh to ribbons raged on, yet inside the airship, everything was eerily silent. The Antang cruised smoothly through the void between dimensions, not a single tremor disturbing its course. Crunch. I took a biscuit from the pouch on my belt. Once the war began in earnest, I wouldn't have the luxury of moments like this. As emergency rations, it wasn't particularly delicious, but it was enough to keep boredom at bay. Loki. What? Aunt Izel, are you really okay with this? Isel, perched on my shoulder, swung her legs back and forth. Leaving like this, won't you regret it? Even if you're not their master anymore, those heroes. It would be more annoying if they clung to me with useless sentiment. This is for the best. If they had tried to stop me with tears, it would have been unbearably frustrating. No matter how they reacted, they would only be a hindrance to me. Bringing weaklings along only to have them die, that'd be a pain. If they got taken hostage, that'd be even worse. Going alone is easier. Then what about me? You're from Server 1. I needed a guide. I had no intention of hesitating. As soon as I reached Server 1, I would head straight for Mobius headquarters. A swift and decisive strike. I would end this before their influence could spread any further. Oh right, I've thought of a new name for you. My name? You said you wanted to be real, didn't you? Nisol, Samsol, Tisol, Rosol. I tried coming up with a few variations, but none of them felt right. You also need to get a proper body instead of looking like a half-finished toy. A toy? Or would you rather stay the same? Isel pursed her lips. The fairies belonging to Mobius were all about the size of an adult man's forearm. Moreover, they all had the appearance of immature young girls, like miniature humans. It was obvious that Tel had designed them this way on purpose. When this battle is over, I'll get you a nice body, one that you'll really like. Just bear with it until then. Frey. Frey. What? You don't like it? My naming sense isn't great, so just go with it. No, not at all. Frey. It has a nice ring to it, and it goes well with Loki too. Glad to hear it. It feels a bit strange, but it's better than Isel. Yes, my reborn name is Frey. Frey blushed and smiled. Then she started humming a tune in a high-pitched voice. I had just picked a name that sounded vaguely familiar, but it seemed like the right choice. This one is quite useful. I hadn't brought her along out of mere sympathy. After the battle in Taunia, I had already linked my data with Frey, The fairy's unique ability for multi-angle, extensive calculations would be a great asset in the coming fights. To put it in perspective, it was like upgrading from a single-core to a dual-core processor. "Just leave it to me. I'll handle everything." Frey laughed loudly. Then, suddenly, with an anxious expression, she looked at me carefully. "So, you won't abandon me, right?" "Of course not." Bunk. A heavy vibration ran through the airship. It was the signal of a dimensional jump. We had already crossed into another dimension. Not much farther now. Less than 1 hour remained until we reached the boundary of Server 1. I pulled my wolf fur cloak around me. Maybe I should take a nap. Rest like this would soon become impossible. I had no idea how many battles lay ahead, so I needed to... Loki. Isel spoke in a low voice. I got up from my chair. It looks like I won't get any rest. Beyond the horizon, an uncountable number of black dots were approaching. Whoa. Even from here I could hear it, the noise of countless airships burning fuel. How many? 82 large class, 113 middle class, 155 small class. Exactly 350. I stood up from my seat. They're not from Mobius. At first glance, they seemed like a unified force, but their airships, equipment, and formations were all different. It wasn't hard to tell. I'd seen forces like this before. Up in the sky, enormous holographic letters appeared. The opponent master players will face this time is the strongest and worst enemy in history, unprecedented and unparalleled. The rogue master, Loki, is attempting to overthrow the server using exploits and cheats. Show the power of the United Masters. Mobius stands with you. I clicked my tongue. They sure love recycling this nonsense. Main boss reward announcement. The master who defeats Loki will receive the legendary 7-star advancement item, the Book of Reversal, along with super rewards. Additional rewards will be granted based on contribution to the boss defeat. Various clear and participation rewards included. Do they really think this will work? But looking at the fleet they've gathered. Yeah, it must be working if they keep doing it. Even in this half-broken server with its wrecked management, they had managed to rally this many people. Despite all the disasters that had caused many players to quit, the server wasn't dead yet. The kind who bark when the devs tell them to bark and roll over when ordered to. Whether because they had spent too much money or for some other reason, they weren't ready to let go of this game just yet. Ding! All heroes in the field receive death protection. During battle with Loki, heroes will not permanently disappear upon death. Instead, they will revive after a set period, albeit with reduced levels, stats, and skills. Ding! All heroes in the field receive Supreme Goddess's Blessing. All hero stats increase by 200%, and all skills and engravings are enhanced. Ging! All heroes in the field receive... They were stacking buffs like crazy from the start. I tossed aside the empty biscuit wrapper. It was about to begin. Ding! Dimensional Channel, GM exclusive. 3 participants. GM Largo. Kihihi, how dare you defy the CEO? You deserve to die 100 times. Just die miserably over there. GM Sendane. Our CEO is the supreme god. No one can defeat him. I'll make sure you experience his power until you're sick of it.
GM Uriel. Frey, a lowly fairy, thinks she can have a name? Poo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo! I shrugged. Plenty of masters were watching the chat, yet the GMs weren't even trying to hide their intentions. I guess they didn't care anymore, since the game was as good as dead. Master Loki! A dignified male voice echoed across the battlefield.
It was imbued with immense magical power, likely the commander of this raid force. "We do not know what you truly are, nor what exactly you have done. However, one thing is certain. If you do not wish to see your heroes perish, surrender immediately. We will settle this with your life alone." Do not think this will be like El Cid. We will not make the same mistake twice. Your synthesis ability will be useless here. This battle is meaningless. I raised my right hand. Shirk. Countless invisible threads extended into the air, spreading like a spider's web. Transparent filaments stretched in all directions. Frey. Got it. Connecting now. Freya's eyes glowed blue. She was scanning and reading the data of the current battlefield. I see it now. A flood of data flashed before my vision. It was a realm imperceptible to human interpretation. But I could read it. So, that's how it works. The system governing this world resembled the source code of a program. 3,000. That was the total number of hunters gathered here. Since casual players had already quit, only the hardcore veterans remained. The battlefield was filled with fully maxed out 6-star heroes equipped with rare skills, gear, and engravings. "Stop your airship and drop your weapons at once, Loki. I will not warn you again." But the Aintning did not stop. It continued advancing, cutting through the encircling fleet. The enemy ships spread out, attempting to surround us. Analysis complete. You can stop now. Good work. I've never done something like this before. Frey, drenched in sweat, collapsed from exhaustion. I gently placed her on the deck. "If you refuse to comply, our fleet will reduce your airship to dust. I can hear you just fine. Stop talking already." "So you've finally come to your senses?" I furrowed my brows. A few hundred meters ahead, a man clad in silver armor stood on the bow of an enormous warship. That must be the commander of the raid force. Behind him stood a large number of elite heroes standing at attention. "I am aware of your great achievements. I wish to treat you with respect. If you surrender willingly, I will spare your territory. Stop your airship at once. Move aside." "Are you out of your mind?" The commander's voice dropped. "How arrogant. I had hoped to resolve this amicably out of respect for your reputation. So, you're not moving? I will leave nothing of you behind." I clenched my right hand. Shirk. The countless threads that had stretched out now recoiled back to me. ID acquired. If they had heroes capable of interference, this would be a different story. But it seemed they didn't. Heroes like Cirrus are rare. Even for me, killing 10,000 people at once would be a bit much. I didn't want to be a mass murderer unless necessary. So, instead, half. "Prepare for battle!" The commander drew his sword. The magic cannons already aimed at me began charging their energy. The Aintning continued accelerating. Just as the enemy fleet was about to unleash a full barrage, "Fire all!" Snap. I flicked my fingers. Boom! Boom, boom, boom! All the thousands of shells flying toward me disappeared. And then... The Aintning drifted past the enemy fleet, unscathed. They had been shouting about surrender so loudly moments ago, yet now silence filled the air, as if they'd been doused with cold water. What the hell is this? The commander was still alive. Since I had set the probability to 50%, he must have been lucky. But behind him, exactly half of his subordinates had vanished. If I had been a little more meticulous, I could have absorbed them. But low-tier heroes wouldn't even make a dent in my strength. I smirked, wrapping my cloak around me. Loki? Balancing the universe. It's not exactly fun, is it? What kind of nonsense is that? I just wanted to say it once. Boom! The airship crashed into the dimensional boundary once more, piercing through to the other side. Server 1's entrance was now right in front of us. Crackle. For a moment, it felt like I had lost another memory, but I chose not to think about it.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. Have a suggestion? Let me know in the comments.